It's 1:48 a.m. on August 13th, 2018. A quiet suburban neighborhood in Frederick, Colorado is asleep. No traffic, no noise, just one set of headlights cutting through the darkness. A pregnant mother named Shanann Watts has just returned home from a business trip. She walks toward her front door, unaware that it will be the last time anyone sees her alive. Within hours, an entire family will vanish. A mother, her two young daughters, and an unborn son. At first, it looks like a missing persons case. A worried friend, an unanswered phone, a husband acting strangely calm. But then a neighbor's security camera captures something chilling. Just a few seconds of grainy footage that shatters a carefully crafted lie. And the man at the center of it all? A father who just days earlier posted smiling family photos, preached about perfect love, and told friends he was living the dream. Tonight, we're diving into one of the most unsettling modern true crime cases, a story filled with lies, manipulation, and a motive that still doesn't fully make sense. This is the story of Chris Watts, the so-called monster next door. A case that shocked the world, devastated a community, and left behind a question that still haunts investigators. How well do we really know the people we share a home with? To understand what happened that night, you have to rewind years before the crime, to when Shanann met Chris. Shanann was warm, social, outgoing, the type who walked into a room and instantly made friends. She battled health issues, but she was optimistic, ambitious, and fiercely devoted to the people she loved. Chris, on the other hand, was quiet, more reserved, a background character in his own life, according to people who knew him. Someone who rarely pushed back, rarely spoke up, rarely showed emotion at all. Opposites attracted, and quickly. They married in 2012. Soon came two daughters. Bella, thoughtful and gentle, and Celeste, the tiny firecracker of the family. Social media made them look like the perfect suburban dream family. Cute matching outfits, family vacations, birthday parties. The whole aesthetic was, we're blessed and we know it. But offline, things were starting to crack. The couple's finances were collapsing. They filed for bankruptcy in 2015. Shanann struggled with health concerns. Chris became more distant, not angry, just absent. Friends said Shanann would do all the talking during conversations, and Chris would just kind of sit there, quiet, blank. And sometimes, the quiet ones have the loudest storms brewing underneath. In 2018, while Shanann was pregnant with their third child, a boy they planned to name Nico, Chris met someone new, a coworker named Nicole Kessinger. Nicole later said she thought Chris was separated, that he acted like a man whose marriage was already over, and Chris didn't correct her. This was the beginning of his double life. He started working out obsessively, changed his eating habits, bought new clothes, started acting like he was 18 again, not a married father of two with another baby on the way. He told Nicole he wanted a fresh start. He told her he was done with his old life. Meanwhile, he said nothing to Shanann. She noticed the emotional distance. She texted friends saying she felt something was wrong. She even wrote messages to Chris saying, "You don't love me anymore. You don't care. You don't respond." Chris didn't argue. He didn't comfort her. He didn't fight to fix anything. On August 12, 2018, Shanann flew to Arizona for a work trip. While she was gone, Chris took the kids to a birthday party. Witnesses later said he looked cold and emotionless, like his body was there, but the rest of him wasn't. Shanann returned in the early hours of August 13th. CCTV footage from a friend's door camera shows her walking toward her front door, a suitcase in hand, completely unaware of what was waiting inside. Chris later claimed they had a serious discussion about separation. But investigators believe the confrontation was much darker and much shorter than he said. By sunrise, Shanann and the kids were gone, and Chris began the performance. At 8:30 a.m., Shanann's friend Nicole Atkinson tried calling her. No response, no texts, no updates. Nicole knew something was wrong immediately. Shanann never missed calls, especially not during pregnancy, especially not with a doctor's appointment scheduled that morning. Nicole drove straight to the Watts house. Chris arrived minutes later, perfectly calm, perfectly collected. Police body cam footage shows Chris walking around the house, barely pretending to look concerned. He keeps saying, "I just want them to come back. I don't know where they went. This is weird." But everything he does feels wrong. He never calls out their names, never frantically searches the house, never shows any panic. Instead, he keeps checking his phone and rubbing his hands over his head and pacing, almost like he's waiting for something. While police are inside the house, a neighbor invites an officer to view footage from his home security camera. On the video, you see Chris early that morning, around 5:27 a.m., backing his work truck into the garage. The neighbor points at the screen and says, "He's never done that before." The footage shows Chris making multiple trips from the house to his truck, carrying heavy items, loading them into the back. Police didn't know what it meant yet, but the neighbor did. As soon as Chris leaves the room, the neighbor turns to the officer and whispers, "Something's not right with that dude." It's subtle, it's quiet, but it's the moment Chris's perfect lie begins to crack. The next day, Chris stands in front of news cameras, begging for his family to come home. On the surface, it looks like a grieving father, but the words are flat. The eyes are empty. His voice has no urgency. When reporters ask what he wants his daughters to know, he says, "I just want them back." No tears, no emotion, just the same rehearsed sentence over and over. Body language experts later said he displayed classic signs of deception. Self-soothing gestures, lack of grief, overly stiff posture, hyper-controlled speech, smiling at odd moments. It wasn't guilt, it was performance anxiety, like he knew the world was watching, and he was trying not to slip, but he already had.
Chris Watts, WATTS.
What's going on right now around your house?
Right now, you got K9 units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent, and see where they went. If they went on foot, they went in a car, or they went somewhere. And right now, it's just like they've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something.
What happened? Your wife came home. Tell me what's...
She came home from the airport at 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here. And like about 12:10 in that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door. Like I had texted Shanann a few times that day, called her, but she never got back to me, but she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well. And that's what really concerned a lot of people. Is like, she's not getting back to her, like, if she doesn't get back to me, that's fine, like, she gets busy during the day, but she didn't get back to her people, which was very concerning. And Nicole called me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home.
On August 15th, just 2 days after the disappearance, investigators asked Chris to take a polygraph. He agreed, confident, smiling even. Minutes after the test ended, the examiner leaned in and said the now iconic line, "Chris, that was one of the worst polygraph results we've ever seen." The room changed instantly. The energy dropped. Chris's body language collapsed. For the first time, he looked scared. Investigators pushed hard. They told him they knew he wasn't telling the truth. They told him the story didn't make sense. They told him the footage, the timeline, the evidence, none of it added up. And then Chris cracked. But instead of protecting himself, he tried to shift blame. He claimed he only unalived Shanann after seeing her do something to the kids. Investigators didn't believe him for a second, but they let him talk. Because once a lie starts unraveling, you just let gravity do the rest. Here's the part that still troubles investigators. Why would a quiet, non-violent man choose the most extreme option possible? There's no single answer, but multiple factors collided. 1. The affair. Chris wanted a new life with Nicole. He didn't want the responsibilities of fatherhood. 2. Finances. The family was drowning in debt. Starting over was impossible, unless the family wasn't part of the picture. 3. Identity crisis. Chris had never been the confident one. Until the affair, he felt powerful for the first time in his life. 4. Emotional disconnection. Psychologists later suggested he lacked normal empathy responses. He functioned like someone who viewed people as obstacles instead of relationships. But even with all of that, the motive doesn't fully make sense. And maybe that's the scariest part. Because logic can explain finances, affairs, divorce, but it can't explain the complete absence of humanity. On November 19th, 2018, Chris Watts was sentenced to multiple life terms without the possibility of parole. He pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty, requested not by him, but by Shanann's family, who didn't want another life taken. Today, he remains behind bars, largely isolated, rarely speaking, and reportedly spending his days writing letters, journals, and religious notes. But the world hasn't forgotten. Documentaries, interviews, psychological studies, the case remains one of the most analyzed of the 21st century. Because people aren't trying to understand what happened. They're trying to understand how it happened. How a man who looked so normal on the outside could harbor something so dark underneath. There's one more angle people still talk about. Something that feels like it belongs in a horror movie, but it's real footage. During the initial police search of the house, captured on body cam, multiple officers later reported hearing things. Soft noises, muffled sounds, almost like small footsteps upstairs. Officers even paused at moments, looking toward the hall or the stairs, confused. Viewers claim they heard children's voices on the footage. Some swear they saw shadows move. Others say they felt something off in the house, a heaviness. Now, whether you believe in the supernatural or not, there's no denying the house felt cold, empty, wrong, almost like the truth was trying to reveal itself before Chris did. Most true crime cases leave us with sadness anger, or sympathy. This one leaves us with something deeper, a kind of psychological discomfort. Because the villain wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows. He was a dad, a neighbor, a coworker, the guy who waved to you while taking out the trash, the monster next door. And maybe that's why this case sticks with us, because it destroys the illusion that danger is always far away, that evil looks a certain way, that we can identify a threat by its face. This case reminds us that sometimes the danger is smiling in family photos. Sometimes it's holding your child's hand. Sometimes it's sleeping in the room next to yours. And sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we never suspect. So the next time you see a perfectly curated family photo online, a smiling dad, a loving husband, a picture-perfect life, remember this: behind the brightest smiles can hide the darkest secrets. And sometimes, CCTV doesn't just capture the truth, it exposes a monster. This was the story of Chris Watts, a crime that shocked the world, and a reminder that evil doesn't always knock on your door. Sometimes it lives there,